Greetings and bienvenue, MITZU. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Be me, age 22. Leave the country to teach English in Korea for a year. The school I worked at treated me like shit. No fluent English-speaking people in a 10-mile radius. I don't know Korean. Parents threaten me with disownment if I wuss out and break my contract to come home. It's a bad time. Frequent panic attacks when I literally have never had them before. Live in this shitty apartment over a pork restaurant. Huge wooded park literally right outside my building. Wake up in the middle of the night one night. Piece of shit brain decided to give me a panic attack while I was sleeping. Pitch black room. I don't immediately know or remember where I am because I have a panic attack. Jump out of bed, run down 3 flights of stairs and bolt outside because I can't breathe. The fresh air is nice. I start to calm down. Decide to walk through the park even though I'm barefoot and in PJs because trees remind me of home. Man standing in the middle of the trail on my way back. I have to get past him to get home. It's like 3 in the morning. Don't panic. JPG. Try to remind myself that Korea is one of the safest countries on earth in terms of violent crime. Start walking towards him. Say excuse me in Korean to try to get past, one of the only things I knew how to say. He won't fucking move, not even facing my direction. Nope. Awkwardly slide between him and a tree to get past him. Apologize in Korean as I do so. Can feel his eyes follow me as I keep walking. Nope, nope. Walking faster. Make it back to the apartment. Run up the stairs. Look out the window. He's at the entrance to the park but covered in shadows so I can't make out any features. Nope, nope, nope. Close curtains. Don't sleep that night. Learned from my Korean native co-teacher later that there are shadows in the park, but they're considered good spirits. I call bullshit on that though, because my stay only got worse until I eventually cut and ran and fled the country. Forgot pick. This is the staircase leading up to the park. Dude was standing right at the top by the time I got back inside.
In what ways did it get worse? Anything else paranormal happen?
Mostly regular mundane adult shit. Work got way worse. Got super sick, strep and bronchitis at the same time paired with hypertension from the stress of my job, and lost 20 pounds in a month. Was being stalked by 3 Bangladeshi men. Collapsed in the middle of Seoul for seemingly no medical reason. Shit like that. Lots of bad luck that part of me wants to blame on the shadow in the park, honestly. I played footsie with alcoholism after a while because of it. I think my co-teacher fed me a line of bullshit because the faculty at the school hated me because American. Holy shit. Koreans hate Americans, but they really needed a foreign teacher because the dude I replaced had to leave halfway through the school year for family reasons. Who knows what would have happened if I ever went back into the park at night. The only other unexplained phenomena I experienced out there was when we went up into the mountains for some kind of dinner. It was this single building in the middle of the woods up a mountain. We passed some older abandoned buildings on the long dirt road up there, and some ruins. And I was pretty mesmerized by it because I love ancient shit like that. Anyway, while we were eating, I left to go outside briefly to go have a smoke and saw some kids playing off in a woods, a boy and a girl. Maybe 5 to 9, pretty young. I went back inside and asked the co-teacher if the owner of the place knew that his kids were playing out there, since they were kind of far out and I was worried that they might stray too far and get lost. She didn't speak super great English, but she was able to translate the question for me. The translated answer I got back was, no children, no children. I had violent nightmares for the next 3 nights, but woke up with panic attacks and could never remember them. Shit didn't start getting really paranormal for me again until I got back to the States. I could tell those stories if you want, but they're not all that exciting.
This happened to me while I lived in Korea right before I moved to America. I don't know if you ever heard of Kishins. That's Korean for, well, I guess for ghosts. They look like the Ring Girl, all in white, long black hair and really pale faces. Oh yeah, and usually they are women. Just thought I'd let you know. Well, here is my experience. One night while I was studying in my room, I felt very tired and couldn't continue studying. Thinking that some rest would help, I turned in for the night. My room had everything. A computer, TV, VCR, back in the day, everything. But back to the story. I was so tired that I thought I'd fall asleep the instant I crashed into bed. Oddly, I became very restless. I experienced some type of vertigo and felt a little sick to my stomach. Thinking that I had caught the flu or a bad cold, I turned off all the lights and the TV and tried to sleep. Lying there in the dark didn't help my sleep at all. I started feeling cold and scared for some reason. Then from a distance, I heard a girl crying. I was chilled to the bone. I didn't want to move and my eyes were wide open. The crying continued for about 3-5 minutes. Too scared to move or say anything, I just listened to the crying when suddenly the crying halted with a shrieking scream. Now, the only way I could explain the scream is kind of weird. It was loud enough for me to hear it, but it seemed like anyone else could. What happened next is the chilling part. I have to explain the setup of my room a little bit. The TV and VCR stand was at the end of my bed with some space in between for walking. As I laid there frozen by fear, I could only look straight forward with my eyes wide open. I was afraid to blink. All I could see was the 12 o'clock on my VCR blinking because I never set the time for it. Then, all of a sudden, a few seconds after I heard the scream, the 12 o'clock that I was looking at disappeared for what felt like hours, but was probably about 5 minutes or so. The only thing that registered in my mind was either the VCR was broken or something was standing in front of it. I couldn't see anything because it was pitch black in my room, but the 12 o'clock had disappeared. So scared, I shut my eyes and started praying. When I opened my eyes, there was the 12 o'clock blinking like normal. I had stayed up all night, too scared to sleep. When the sun came up, I found no evidence of anything being in my room or malfunctions of the VCR connections. After only living in that first-floor apartment for about a month, my family decided to move to America. We were having a lot of money problems and wanted to come to the land of opportunity to see where it could take us. Not until we had moved out did my mom tell me that she hated that apartment and got bad feelings from it. I then proceeded to tell my mom what happened that night. She didn't act too shocked from it and proceeded to tell me that the only reason they got that apartment was because of the price. My parents knew that we were moving to America months prior and just needed a cheap place to stay for about a month. The apartment was dirt cheap because a girl that had lived in an apartment way directly above us had committed self-termination from the stress of getting into college. She had landed right by my bedroom window. I am now 29 years of age. I still cannot sleep without some type of light on. Usually the light source is my TV or computer. I know it's silly that a grown man needs some type of nightlight, but the experience has never left me the same.
So this basically happened when I was in South Korea as an exchange student for a year. It's the only paranormal experience I had whilst I was there, but boy will I remember it for life. I decided to live alone whilst I was there instead of living with other people in a shared house or the uni dorm. So I rented a one-room near the uni and lived there on my own. I fell asleep whilst watching an episode of Running Man. Not relevant, but just felt like mentioning that. Suddenly I woke up in the middle of the night, not sure what time, feeling tingles all over my body. It wasn't particularly cold as it was transitioning to autumn, but I just felt shivers all over my body and hair raised, goosebumps everywhere. And that's when I heard loud breathing, and it wasn't my own. For a second, I was wondering to myself if I was dreaming and if I was aware I was dreaming, if this was a lucid dream. I've had lucid dreams before and made myself fly or breathe underwater. But after a few seconds of trying to change the dream made me realize I was definitely not dreaming. The breathing was coming from above me where the ceiling was. I couldn't bring myself to open my eyes. And I pretended to be asleep, so I breathed slowly, with a bit of volume. But I don't think I fooled whatever it was. The breathing became louder and closer, and I felt its hot breath, whatever it was. I can never forget this feeling, and it made me forget that I was supposed to be pretending that I'm asleep, but I inhaled sharply and just froze, too scared to move or make a sound. It giggled, and it was a man's voice. And then I felt its breath shift to the back of my neck, and then after a bit shifted again to my right arm. I started praying all my prayers because I was scared shitless. Then I felt its breath on my right hand, and then the breath was concentrated onto my pinky finger. Then it bit me. My pinky finger. I jerked my hand away and clambered into the covers, because of course that's going to protect me. Stupid. After realizing I was being a fool, I got out of bed and ran to the light, hit my hip on the way and bruised it. But after I turned the light on, there was nothing there. I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't about to open the storeroom opposite my bed or check under the bed. I looked at my pinky finger and it didn't look particularly different. Just a bit more pink compared to the rest of my fingers. No bite marks. But then again, I just jerked my hand away very quickly when it was starting to get painful. I brushed my teeth, grabbed my phone, and saw it was 3:47 a.m., then put on a coat, grabbed my wallet, left the house, and went to a 24-hour karaoke. I was hoping singing my favorite songs was going to distract me. I just didn't want to be in that room that night. I've told other people, but they just laugh it off and say I must have been dreaming. But I was not.
Hey guys, it's been a while since I have been active on this website. Well, I had been going through so many ups and downs in life, rushing back and forth, managing my professional as well as personal life, which never really left me with much time to invest in myself. I don't intend to run around in circles, so I'll start my story. This incident dates back to about 2015, when I was working as a deputy engineer in one of the LG's branch departments based at Incheon, South Korea. I was working in a foreign country for the first time, and it was difficult for me to get accustomed with the Korean culture. Although the Koreans were welcoming, I can't help but feel like a familiar stranger to them. There was culture shock, as East Asia felt completely otherworldly from home. Luckily, I found some companionship from fellow mates from the UK working in the same firm as me. Despite my relieved solitude, the work stress was real owing to the work culture of Asia. So a few of us friends decided to take a little time off from work and enjoy ourselves on a vacay. We decided to choose a rural area as it was a trip to refresh ourselves from the work pressure, and we can also explore the culture of this country on the way. Our destination was Boseonggun village in Jeollanam. Sorry if I had spelled it wrong. The village in itself was kind of isolated from the world of hustle-bustle of the rest of Korea, which was its attractive feature. There were no luxurious hotels to welcome the tourists, but it was quite a tourist destination. There were various guest houses and inns across the street. We checked into this one inn. I can't quite recall its name, which was quite popular, having a legend of a good luck goddess. The inn had a small Zen garden at the backyard with a fish pool at its center, where the tourists used to throw a coin praying for good luck. The owner of the inn believed that the goddess used to visit and fulfill the wishes of the people. Initially, I thought it was a sham to attract more tourists, but still I adhered to it. We were allotted a quite spacious room, as we were 3 in number. The room had wall-sized windows which directly opened into the garden. The view of the inn was fabulous. Harvey, Harrington, was the only one in our group who knew Korean, so he was talking to the receptionist regarding our stay. I was tired, so I went to bed early after the tiresome journey. Reggie and Harvey went to bed after some time hence. In the middle of the night, I was suddenly awakened by the sound of what seemed like footsteps in the garden. I was curious to know who on earth is taking a walk in the middle of the night, so I opened the window to sneak a peek when I saw a woman wearing a traditional Korean dress, hanbok, sitting beside the pool. She had long black hair which appeared to be shining in the moonlight. Her body was pale with a feverish complexion in her toes, and the moment I tried to get closer to her, she turned her head around, and all I remembered was that she was breathtakingly beautiful. What happened after that seems to have vanished from my memory. I woke up to Reggie shaking me roughly while screaming my name with Harvey and a crowd of people surrounding me. I was so puzzled as to where I was when Reggie told me that he caught me wandering in the garden heading towards the woods. I was utterly confused, as I didn't recall what had happened. Even to this day I can't remember. I screamed at the top of my lungs, telling everyone what I saw. All of them were shocked, while some refused to believe me, but the locals said that I saw the goddess, and I was lucky to have survived. These spirits are often tricksters who tend to lure humans by wandering them off in the woods with their mesmerizing charm, although they remarked that I was not the only one who saw her. After this confession, I thanked Reggie for saving me on time. I don't know whether I am blessed with good luck or not, but I was indeed extremely terrified after this experience.
So I'm pretty sure my parents' house was haunted. When we moved in, there was a child-sized noose hanging from the ceiling in the basement. No shitting. I was always terrified of the upstairs hallway at night, and I didn't know why. When I was in Korea, actually, I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she said that my stepdad, who has always been a lifelong skeptic, was starting to believe it too, because he was hanging out downstairs super early in the morning, like 4 a.m., having a snack and heard someone walking around upstairs and thought it was my stepsister. He looked up the stairs and saw a small child reach the top of the stairs and turn the corner down the hall. Anyway, come home from Korea. My parents eventually caved and let me back home. Total mental fucking breakdown from my experiences. Majorly depressed, sleeping 18 hours a day, hopeless and suicidal pretty regularly. Had to trick myself to get out of bed to shower, kind of depressed. I'm 27 now and still not entirely over it. Have PTSD from the trip and refuse to take risks anymore, but that's besides the point. The house feels more haunted than ever. Not entirely sure that something from Korea didn't follow me home. Spirits prey on the mentally and emotionally distressed, right? Fuck me. In depression sleep. Wake up, roll over in bed. There's a girl sleeping beside me, facing me. Reach out to touch her to wake her up. No idea why I'm doing this. Who are you? How did you get here? Did I really get that drunk last night? Her eyes snap open at me. Fear and dread hold me in place. Pull a hand back, not touching that shit now. Nope. She leans closer. Close my eyes, hoping she just leaves me alone. Open them, she's gone. And shit like that just kept happening. About a week later, in depression sleep again. Wake up kinda thirsty, sit up. There's a man sitting at the foot of my bed. He looks like an old-timey farmer. Overalls, big hat, just sitting on the foot of my bed smoking a cig. I just kind of stare at him for a few seconds. He never looks over at me, just enjoying his cig. I shake my head and lie back down, shoving my face into the pillow and mutter, I must still be sleeping. Turn over and look back at the foot of bed. He's gone. No idea what the hell that was about. That definitely wasn't a Korean ghost. That was a white dude. I kept feeling presences around me for a while, but those were the only 2 instances where I actually saw people. And then, one day, it just stopped. Or more accurately, something stopped it. A few weeks later, back in depression sleep, had a serious and hero scare the day before, like the kind where you're up at 5 a.m. crying hysterically and Googling reasons not to off yourself. Wake up, see some kind of wispy smoke around me. Negative energy everywhere, and for once it's not coming from me. Just leave me alone. I mutter kind of helplessly. I really didn't have the strength to fight anymore. This is the end. Another presence shows up, this one kind of invisible. Something happened. I have no idea what. Suddenly, both presences are just gone. Like forever gone. I never had another paranormal experience after that. I got a job and went to my doctor for antidepressants a few weeks later. My dad passed away when I was 12, and I can't shake the feeling that he was the second presence in the room that day. And by passed away, I mean he committed self-termination, and I'm the only person in the family still alive who knows that's how he went. Maybe it's just my daddy issues talking, but I feel like he saw how close I was to going the way he did and stepped in to stop it at the last second. It makes me sad to think about for some reason.
I moved to an apartment complex called Mirinai in Daegu, South Korea. It seemed pretty old, but it was spacious and my parents really liked it. I was 16 at the time. One night, my dad turned on the karaoke machine in the living room and began to sing. To drown out the noise, I closed the door all the way and went to sleep. I didn't lock it. Now, when opened slowly, my door makes a loud squeaking noise, but when opened fast, there is no noise. It took me a while to fall asleep because my dad was doing karaoke for a while, but I finally did, and the door stayed closed the whole time. In the middle of the night, the door began to squeak. I woke up and looked at the door. I slept with a nightlight. The door was opened a little, but the squeaking stopped. I was too tired to care, so I just went back to sleep. But as soon as I closed my eyes, the door began to squeak again. I thought it was my sister trying to scare me, so I yelled out, "Hey, I'm tired, go to sleep, ugh!" But there was nothing. My sister usually freaks herself out first before she can scare anyone. I was getting a little bit scared, but I was too lazy to get up and shut the door. I closed my eyes again, and once again, squeaked. By this time, the door is open just enough for a head to pop in. I finally got scared, so I got up, ran to the door, shut it, locked it, and turned the lights on. Afterwards, I got my cell phone and called the house. I thought it was a burglar. My mom picked up the phone and I told her there was someone in the house, but she couldn't hear me and just hung up on me. I've never had problems with my cell or the house phone. The weird thing is, I stayed up all night listening for any noises this burglar may make, but I heard nothing. Morning came and I checked the house, but everything was the same, and nothing was missing. I was somewhat freaked out, but I honestly didn't think much of it. I was sort of skeptical. About a month later, my dad went to the States for a business trip, so it was my mom, my brother, and my sister in the house. We have 2 bathrooms, but the ones my siblings and I use don't have a tub. I usually wash my body at night and wash my hair in the morning. I don't know, I'm weird. I'm the first one to wake up in the morning so I can wash my hair. My brother also likes to use the tub in the morning, but he got dibs on waking up the latest possible. Before I continue, I have to explain the house layout. The bathroom with the tub is located in between my parents' bedroom and the computer room. The computer is a dead end. The tub bathroom has a semi-clear sliding door. You can see somewhat clearly outside from the bathroom, but you can't see anything from outside in. The way I wash my hair, I put my head upside down so I can wash my hair with the hose, and I can see the door from that position. While I was washing my hair, I saw a tall thing with a black robe slide slowly across the door toward the computer room. I knew my brother wasn't that tall, so I was curious about what it was. I waited for it to come back, since the computer room is a dead end. I never took my eyes off the door, and once I was done washing my hair, I opened the door and looked in the computer room, but there was nothing there. It couldn't have been my mom, because she's shorter than me, and I'm pretty short. Plus, I had to wake her up afterwards. My sister is even shorter than my mom, and she was showering in the other bathroom, and I had to wake up my brother after I was done with my hair. Plus, like I said, my brother wasn't that tall. I never figured out what that thing was. Couple of days later, I was too lazy to take a shower at night, so I had to take a shower and wash my hair in my bathroom, with no tub, in the morning. It was around 5:30 a.m. I took a long time to get ready. While I was showering, I heard a man screaming. It was a faint, yet close scream. It's hard to explain, but it's one of those screams that sound like they're in a lot of pain. It went on the entire time I showered. As soon as I finished, the scream stopped, and I immediately went to my mom, who was in the kitchen, which is right next to my bathroom, and asked her if there was some drunk guy outside screaming. She said no, told me I was crazy and to eat breakfast. I have 2 small dogs that never bark. I have no idea what their deal is, but I've had one of them for 7 years and the other for 2 years, and they've never barked. They whined when we ate, but that was it. I was home alone with my dad and the dogs. My dad was in the computer room doing work while I watched TV with the 2 dogs on either side of me. There was absolutely no noise, but the 2 dogs immediately got up together at the same time, ran to the door and began barking ferociously at the door. Then they ran back halfway, turned around, barked, ran towards it, barked, and just kept on doing that. My dad walked in and asked what was going on, and I told him I had no idea. He opened the door, and nothing was there. We had to put the dogs in their rooms. After a while, I told my sister all these stories, and she told me she often saw that black figure walk right outside of her door. She leaves a crack open because she's afraid of the dark. I rode a taxi home one day, and the old taxi driver told me Mirine is one of the oldest apartment complexes in Dagoth, and that there was an hero incident in one of the apartments back in the day. I didn't ask him the details because I just didn't want to know. We moved to a different apartment complex about 2 years later. My parents never told us why.
I came to South Korea to be with my husband, who is in the army. I have been here for 5 months. I have been living in my apartment for over 4 months. About 2.5 months ago, I started getting the icy feeling like I was being watched. This went on with no happenings until last night. My husband is training in the field. I am all alone in the house. Just like any other night, I got changed, went into bed and called my husband. I went to sleep around 12:30 a.m. I slept for about 2 hours when I started having a dream that I have had before. But instead of what normally happened in the dream, an unknown force was on my back with 2 handfuls of my hair, holding me down. I woke up to find that my head, where, in my dream, this force had my hair. I blew it off, thinking it was my imagination. I fell back asleep a short time later. The dream resumed where it had left off. This happened one more time before I decided to just stay awake. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not exactly sure. I heard a Korean man's voice talking. It was very deep. I could not make out any words that I knew. It sounded as if he were hissing the words. By this time, I was already terrified. I heard knocking and my chairs being scooted around. This went on for about an hour. Then it started scratching my walls. It started soft and short at first. I ignored it until it got harder and louder, increasing a lot every time. Finally, I could not take it anymore. It felt like my heart was going to burst. It was beating so hard. I got up and turned on all the lights in the house. It stopped. I got dressed and looked around to find all my chairs moved, little things moved, and then I saw the scratch marks on the wall. It was about 6:30 in the morning when I left. I am looking for another apartment. There is no way that I am going to stay there and let it keep getting worse and more violent.
The Frog Boys, Korean Gaegurisonyeon, is a group of 5 murdered South Korean boys who disappeared on March 26, 1991 while frog hunting. Their bodies were found 11 years later. March 26, 1991 was a public holiday in South Korea for the 1991 local elections. The boys decided to spend the day catching frogs in the streams of Mount Waryeong, 35, 867 degree and 128, 513 degree E. They never returned to their homes. After they were reported missing, their story became a national sensation. President Roh Tae-woo sent 300,000 police and military troops to search for the missing boys, with the searches shown on live TV. Several of the boys' parents left their jobs to travel around the country, looking for their children. Mount Waryeong was searched over 500 times. On September 26, 2002, a man searching for acorns discovered their bodies in the mountain, an area that had been previously searched. He first reported the remains via an anonymous phone call. Initially, the police stated that they thought the boys had died of hypothermia. However, the parents did not accept that conclusion and demanded a full investigation. The families questioned the conclusion that the boys had simply died after getting lost due to the oddities of the boys' clothes being found tied in knots, and of their bodies being found a short distance from the village in an area the boys knew very well. Forensic experts discovered that the boys had been murdered with repeated blows to the head, and that one had been shot in the head with a shotgun.
North Korea isn't 100% ruled by the Kim family. It's a basic Stalinist military junta with a semi-legitimate figurehead from a family dynasty to provide continuity and keep the people distracted and loyal to a common cause. The Kim family live in vulgar decadence to keep them sweet and from running away themselves. Apparently, the CIA and South Korean intelligence still don't have full knowledge of how the power structure actually works. The entire country is also a social experiment to see how people cope when faced with different types of shocking hardship. This explains why most people are engaged in pointless busy work, why Pyongyang is top drawer and other parts of the country are a farce. If you want to hear tales from South Korea from someone who grew up there, then check out Tales from the Korean Countryside linked in the description.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts